What does sacking mean in competitive Pokemon? This is a term that pro Pokemon players and YouTubers will throw around willy-nilly, but there isn't really a whole lot of resources explaining. Even if you know what it means, the application can be a little bit tricky for newcomers, so I thought I'd throw together a quick video explaining what it means and what the deal is with it. Sacking refers to intentionally letting one of your Pokemon get knocked out. Some people know this as foddering, or using your Pokemon as cannon fodder, because it literally just means throwing them out to die and not intending to use them for an attack or any other move like that. And this might seem counterintuitive for newcomers. After all, the goal of Pokemon is to knock out the opponent's Pokemon, not your own. So what's the deal? The most common scenario you'll see someone sack a Pokemon is if they're looking to get a different Pokemon into the fight safely, and you don't want them to eat an attack first. Let's say you've got a Flygon in against an opponent's Dragapult. You really need this Flygon to help you win the game and can't let the enemy Dragapult kill it. So you look at your team for someone you can switch safely to. But I mean, this is a Specs Dragapult. Those guys hit hard. And honestly, looking at your team, nobody can really take the hit without dying. You know that your Bisharp could beat it in a 1v1, but there's no way you'll be able to swap it in on a Draco Meteor without it dying first. So what are you supposed to do? Well, luckily, you've got a Seismitoad sitting in the back who would make a perfect sack. Its health is low, it's done its job and gotten up Stealth Rocks, and it doesn't really have any good matchups versus the opponent's team anyway. So you, being the genius Pokemon trainer that you are, intentionally swap to the Seismitoad to let it get knocked out, and then you can subsequently switch to your Bisharp without it taking any damage and beat the Dragapult safely. So that was pretty basic. I would say that most intermediate players will generally get that idea conceptually, even if they aren't familiar with the term sacking per se. But an important mistake that I see players make all the time is undervaluing how important it is to keep a few spare sacks. Let's go back to that example from earlier and twist things a little. Let's say that instead of swapping to Seismitoad, you've already got it in against the opponent's Dragapult. Once again, it's low health and you've still got that Bisharp waiting in the wings to kill the Dragapult. However, this time, you've also got a specially defensive, assault-vested Tyranitar on your team. A lot of players, when faced with this new scenario, will come to the same conclusion that we did earlier. The Seismitoad has done its job, just sack it to the Dragapult, then get your Bisharp in safely to scare it off or revenge kill it. Why would I keep this thing alive when there's nothing that it can do for my team offensively? Now, there's some examples where this thinking is still okay, but keeping that Seismitoad alive to sack at a later time is an extremely useful asset. The best move here would be to swap into that Tyranitar, because it's going to shrug off the Dragapult anyways, and now you're free to sack that Seismitoad at a later time. Fans of Blunder will notice that he often talks about this in his videos, calling it preserving your sacks. So if you're playing an offensive style team versus another offensive style team, where both players are taking advantage of an aggressive, momentum heavy playstyle, having an extra sack lying around is often the deciding factor in these games, and at the very least gives you a favorable endgame. In high-paced games like this, each player usually has one or two Pokemon with a great matchup against the opponent that they can't swap into safely. Like in this example of a game I threw up. My opponent can't swap into my Conkeldurr safely at all. Pretty much every time I get it in safely, my opponent has got to pick a sack to die to it. By the same token, I've got next to nothing that can eat a Draco Meteor from Dragapult after my Ferrothorn dies. In a game like this, preserving that one extra sack is giving me a whole extra chance to throw them on and get the edge. High-level chess actually often works out to be conceptually similar to this philosophy. Good players will get an edge on their opponent by getting a 1 or 2 piece lead, and then begin forcing situations where their opponent has to trade pieces continually until they find themselves in a favorable endgame with 1 or 2 piece lead, where they know they can win. This suffocating playstyle is really the same in offense versus offense Pokemon, just scaled down a bit. Even in other playstyles, the extra sack can be useful for scouting purposes. Let's say that Seismitoad is so low that it won't even be able to live the Stealth Rock chip from swapping in, and my opponent has got a Choice Banded Terrakion, and I have no idea if it's going to pick a Rock type move or a Fighting type move. Well, instead of going for a risky 50-50 prediction, I'll just make it easy on myself, swap into that Seismitoad, and then pick my next mon accordingly. Similarly, you can use that same low health Seismitoad for entry hazard removal. So I can bring it in to prevent an Excadrill from rapid spinning, or a Mandibuzz from defogging, what have you. Same sort of concept of keeping a momentum. There's other applications of this concept in competitive play, like having a suicide lead in hyper offense teams. For those that don't know, hyper offense is, as its name implies, like regular offense teams, but on crack. And their goal is to be constantly keeping a momentum and threatening Pokemon with huge offensive pressure. These teams will often have a dedicated lead Pokemon that they will sack at the end of the game, whose only job is to get up Stealth Rocks and entry hazards and prevent their opponent from doing the same. Sometimes they'll even have moves designed to kill themselves, so the opponent can interrupt their momentum and do something to interrupt this lead setup. So like an explosion on a Landorus, or a Steel Beam even on an Excadrill. It helps them keep up that same scary offensive momentum that I was referring to earlier. So once again, even if you're an old hat at sacking and don't give it much thought, consider preserving your sacks the next time you play. To newer players, don't just swap around between your Pokemon when you're threatened. Like, even if you don't have a perfect juicy sack option like what I gave with the example of the low health Seismitoad, it's important that you can pull the trigger on a sack when you need to. So if you're in a terrible situation where nothing can swap in safely, take a second, breathe, look at how your Pokemon match up versus your opponents. and throw out your least important Pokemon in these situations and use that as attack. Even if it's full health, it's important that you can determine how your Pokemon match up versus your opponent and use the least important Mon. This sort of like determining matchups between your opponent's Pokemon versus your own is a really important skill in this game, but I'll make sure to go a bit more in depth into that specifically in a future video. But that's what we're going to do for this one. Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. I just wanted to say a quick apology for not uploading for a few weeks. You know, that knockoff video released at the beginning of the month did really well. Got a ton of kind support. So I feel bad for rewarding that kindness with, you know, some 3 odd weeks of radio silence. I just had the craziest confluence of like schoolwork, then a flu, then reading week, and yada yada yada. For the most part, I'm pretty good about regular uploads. I started this channel a bit more than a month ago, and I normally release 2 to 3 videos a week. So if you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see some more, maybe consider subscribing. I've got a pretty funny Dragapult video lined up for tomorrow, and some more stuff down the pipeline. I've actually been streaming a bit on Twitch too, if you want to throw me a follow in there at NathanLikesChicken1. I've also started a Twitter account, funnily enough. Those bastards at Twitter won't give me enough characters to use my full tag, so I just have it at NathanLikesKFC for now. It's a dumb name, but so is Nathan Likes Chicken, so like, whatever. As a super small content creator, having a Twitter account kind of feels like shouting into the void, but you know, I gotta start somewhere. So if you want to see some of these dumb shit posts or whatever I post, or a heads up when I upload or something like that, maybe throw me a follow on there. Otherwise, that's gonna do it for today. It's like 2 whole minutes of talking about myself. I gotta end the video or I'll go crazy. But thanks for watching, guys. Take it easy.